Hi, everybody. We are so thrilled that you have joined us this evening. Thank you so much for joining our Washington Institute training, How to Have a Successful Advocacy Visit. My name is Jody Rabhan, and I am the Chief Strategy Officer at NCJW, and I use she, her pronouns. This is the first of two webinars focused on our day on the Hill at Washington Institute. And whether you are a seasoned advocate or you are new to advocacy, this training is for you. I promise you're going to learn something new if you've done lots and lots of trainings. Before we begin, though, I want to share a few housekeeping items. So this is an hour-long call and it will be recorded. This training is off the record and it's for internal purposes only. We're in webinar mode, as you may have noticed, and that is to keep the focus on the information. We're going to use the Q&A function for comments and for questions. So for those of you who are joining us by phone, we will be sure to read the questions from the Q&A when we get to that point in our training. We are going to prioritize questions related to the advocacy visits as opposed to those about the issues that we're going to be taking to Capitol Hill. Please save your questions about the issues for our April 9th webinar. I promise you we're going to get to them then. Every resource that we mentioned in this training this evening will be included in the follow-up email after our April 9th advocacy issues training. And as a reminder, NCJW is a 501c3 organization, which means that we work on issues, not candidates or political parties. So this training is nonpartisan and it complies with our nonprofit status. I would now love to turn the webinar over to Talia Steinberg, Associate Director of Government Relations and Advocacy, who will take us through our agenda for the next hour.
Thanks, Jody. As Jody said, I am Talia. I use she, her pronouns. Here is our agenda for our training. First, we'll start with an overview of Washington Institute with an emphasis on our day on the Hill. Then we'll discuss best practices for before, during, and after your advocacy visit. We'll have a fun practice visit. Then we'll open it up to questions and answers. Jody will now give us a brief overview of Washington Institute and our day on the Hill to help put this training in context.
Thank you, Talia. Again, we're really thrilled that you are here with us tonight, but even more so that you registered and plan to be at Washington Institute, which is May 18th through the 20th. Washington Institute, for those of you who have never attended, is a 3-day experience where advocates from across the country come to our nation's capital to network, to hear from incredible speakers, to celebrate extraordinary leaders, and to build skills and take your voices to Capitol Hill. We think that the pinnacle of Washington Institute is our day on Capitol Hill. It's where we get to speak with one voice on the issues that matter most to NCJW. Having anywhere from like 100 plus visits in one day really makes an impact. We are seen and we are heard in a way that is impactful, that is powerful, and that is really visible. We head to Capitol Hill on our last day, Tuesday, May 20th, and we'll spend from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. meeting with our lawmakers. And ideally, you will have 3 meetings. So you should meet with your representative and both senators. Our closing program is going to be on Capitol Hill from 2 to 3 p.m., where we will hear from some of our legislative champions in Congress who are going to remind us of the importance of our work and why we need to keep it up when we return home. In addition to this training, we have already mentioned that there is another training. It's on April 9th, and it's on the issues that we're going to be taking to Capitol Hill. So we want to make sure that you are prepared as a delegation in advance of Washington Institute, and know that we're going to talk a little bit about it tonight, getting prepared in advance, but we are also providing time on site at Washington Institute for you to caucus with your delegation before your visits on Capitol Hill. If you're coming without a delegation, no worries. We're going to be sure to group you with other folks from other states so that you benefit from the prep conversation, but we're going to make sure that you've got the template invitations, the follow-up language, the thank you notes, everything that you need to schedule your own appointments. Our aim this evening is to make sure that you have successful meetings with your lawmakers at Washington Institute. And a note about that. A successful meeting doesn't mean that you suddenly get your lawmakers to agree with you on the issues that we're bringing to them. Really, it means that you get to have a back and forth conversation. You get to share your viewpoints. You get to hear where they stand. And leaving with that information, being able to share your perspective, it is really what it's all about. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Talia, who's going to walk us through planning the visits.
Hello, all, me again. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of why we're here. Let's focus on your visits and planning your visit. So we'll talk about the planning before, during, and after the visit. First things first, as you see on this screen, is setting up the appointment. We provided a template invitation for the House, one for the House and one for the Senate. Our state policy advocates, or SPAs, set up the Senate appointments for the delegation, and the sections take the lead on setting up the House visits. For sections without an SPA, the section is also responsible for setting up Senate appointments. If you're coming from a state without a section, or just one or a few of you are coming from your state section, similarly, you and your group are responsible for setting up your appointments. Please be in touch with NCGW's Associate Director of State Policy Advocacy of the State Policy Advocacy Network, Alana Boyle, if you have any questions about this. We will include her contact information in the follow-up email. So, to start scheduling, email your meeting invitation to the scheduler and or the person you know in the Hill office. You can call the office or look up online how to get this information. You can add to the template invitation the number of people coming or anything else relevant to your section or your state that you'd like to share. The template meeting invitation includes the bills we want to focus on. This helps ensure that the appropriate staff meet with you to discuss our issues. If you are not hearing back about your meeting invitation, don't worry. Just be persistent. You might need to email a few times or even call the office or utilize your contacts in the district office. Don't be discouraged. Let's say we get to the week of Washington Institute and your visit or visits still aren't scheduled and you aren't hearing back from the offices. Please then reach out to Alana. Again, we'll share her email for assistance. Alana will tap the right team member on our team to assist you. Once your meeting is set, please be sure to complete the form that we have provided so that we can get all the information about your health visits. Then we recommend and we ask you to email a day or two before to confirm the time and place. By that, I mean email the office you're visiting with. Don't assume the meeting is in your lawmaker's office. We'll share more about that later. Please also print out and bring a copy of the confirmation email saying your visit is at this time in this place, or have it easily available on your phone. Okay, that's setting up the appointment. Now let's start to think about the timing of your visit and how your visit will look. How will you structure your visit? While all of you are training, while all of you on this training are not necessarily planning your meetings, it's still good to be aware of the roles for each meeting as you'll be on Capitol Hill. So you'll start the visit with introductions. You'll need someone to introduce participants or someone to ask everyone to introduce themselves and say a few words about NCGW and or the section, if there is a section. You'll need someone to ask the staff to introduce themselves and the issues that they cover. You'll need someone that could be the same person to provide a thank you and then turn it over to the next person to speak. That could be one person, that could be a couple of people. It's always good to practice to start your meeting with a thank you, even if you can't thank them for anything related to the bills that we're on the Hill for. What could you say thank you for? Maybe the member of Congress spoke up about something that NCGW cares about or that your section cares about. Maybe they supported something else important to us. You can check their voting record, you can check their website, local news, or the member social media for ideas. If nothing else, you can thank them for their time. It's very important. So you've introduced, you've thanked. Following the thank you, you want to keep the focus on our Washington Institute legislative issues. You'll want to think about 3 people to present the issues, 1 for each issue, ideally. We will suggest the order of presenting the 3 issues based on the order in which they appear in your advocacy report form. Each person who presents an issue will also deliver the asks. The asks are on your advocacy report form that we'll provide to your state policy advocates and to your section leaders. All right, so we have a couple roles so far. We have the introducer, maybe a couple introducers, the thanker, maybe that's the same person. We have the folks presenting the issues. Another role to think about is a timekeeper to make sure that the visit stays on track. Often these visits are 30 minutes, often less. Another key role is a note taker to record any questions you receive during the meeting and any follow-ups that are promised that need to be provided by the team. And you'll want someone to close the meeting, providing a clear synopsis of the follow-up, if any, and a thank you. If you have others in your delegation, you might want to think about who can prepare materials for the meeting, take photos, post on social media, ask for business cards. A key note on photos. Not every office allows photos. Please be sure to ask first upon entering the office. So that is our suggestion on how to structure the visit and what roles need to be assigned. One key thing, you may not have one person for all those roles. So in some visits, one person might have to take up several of those roles, and that's okay. Once you've thought about the structure of your visit and the roles, next focus on who you're meeting with. Frequently, you're not meeting with your actual elected official, but a staff member who is an expert on that issue. This is a good thing. The staff are the ones who make the recommendations to the lawmakers on how they should or shouldn't vote. Please be respectful of the staff members, as they do have a lot of power. Even if they may not be the staff member working on the issue that you are bringing to them, they are the ones still who write the memos, get the lawmakers on the bills as co-sponsors, tell them what to ask in hearings and meetings, and make vote recommendations. So they're very powerful. Also, it's very possible that more than one staff member will be in your meeting, as we'll be focusing on 3 different bills under 3 different issues. Regardless of whether you're meeting with a staff or with a lawmaker, you want to think about your lawmaker's stance on the issues. You may already be aware, but if you're not, you can search online and check the lawmaker's website or any news articles about their stance on these issues. At Washington Institute, we'll be providing an overview of where your lawmakers are on the advocacy issues. We'll have one packet of information per visit, and we will share that information with the state policy advocates and during your state caucuses at Washington Institute. And remember, a reminder that we will agree to disagree on many issues. Your lawmakers may not agree on the issues you're bringing to them and the asks you're making, and that's okay. As constituents, going in to meet with your lawmakers and sharing your position is so important. They need to hear from constituents, not just on issues that we agree on. And don't forget, whether you voted for them or not, they work for you. As voters, you hired them and you can fire them. Okay, so we talked about setting up your appointment. We talked about structuring your meeting and what to think about in your meeting. We've talked about, thinking about who you're meeting with. Next, think about what materials you want to bring to the meeting. What information do you want to leave behind for the office? As we said, we'll be providing you with a leave behind folder for each visit, but you can personalize those folders. Maybe there's a relevant op-ed from your state or your locality or your section. Maybe there's other talking points on an issue that's relevant to where you're from. Maybe you want to put your business card. You can add relevant things into those folders. 2 more thoughts related to planning your visits. It's a good idea to practice before you come to Washington. So if you're able, please get your group together on a Zoom or in person if you can, and run through the meeting so that you and your section delegation feel comfortable in the meeting. That's so important. Like I said before, we recognize that the meeting may only be one of you or a few of you, and so you could be holding multiple roles. That's okay. That's still a very powerful meeting. That's how I do my job, is just myself doing all those roles. So I want to emphasize that it'll still be a powerful meeting no matter how many people are in it. Now that we've thought about and planned your visit, let's talk about some best practices to ensure successful visits. Some of these have already been shared, but they bear repeating.
Thanks, Talia. So I'm going to take us through some best practices. So, number one, Talia mentioned you want to confirm your appointment in advance, including the room in which you'll be meeting. Your meeting is not always in the lawmaker's office, so it's worth asking. You want to be flexible. Meetings can change on a dime. You may not be in an office. You may end up in a hallway. You might move rooms in the middle of your visit. You might not be meeting with the person you planned. These things happen, and it adds to the fun, the adventure of a day on Capitol Hill. Don't let it throw you. Don't let it ruin your meeting. It happens to us all the time. If at all possible, be early. We recognize some meetings may be back to back, and you need to send some folks in your delegation ahead, and some people may come late. Do your best, communicate with the offices, but plan ahead, I think, is best, and be early if at all possible. Speaking of time management, practice time management during your visit. Talia mentioned some meetings, most meetings are usually 30 minutes and some are less than that. So if the office hasn't been clear about how much time you have, just feel free to ask at the beginning of your meeting and say, we just want to make sure that we've got 30 minutes with you. And you set up your meeting in advance, knowing how much time you have. And then if you have enough people in your delegation, you can have somebody watching the time to make sure that you're able to talk about your three issues with your thank you at the top. You want to introduce who's in the room. Talia mentioned this. So names, pronouns if you use them, section if you're coming from a section, and that you're NCJW advocates. You want to mention that you're constituents. You want to reiterate why you're there for the three issues that we're taking to the Hill that day. And of course, you want to say your thank yous. You want to introduce the issue. You want to name the bill. You want to say what it would do and why you care. And don't worry, we're going to give you all this information. If possible, you want to use stories. They personalize the issue, they make it more memorable. If you are using somebody else's story, just be sure to ask permission. But no, you can pull a story from a local paper. I think Talia mentioned that already. An article, something that you find online. Again, just be sure to give credit. You can share information from your state or your community. Maybe there's some data. Maybe there's a quote that you want to lift up. Maybe there's a similar law in your state and it's working and you want to share that. Go for it. You want to state clearly what you want from the lawmaker. So, what can the lawmaker do? Do you want them to co-sponsor? Do you want them to talk about this? Do you want them to vote yes? Do you want them to vote no? Again, we're going to provide you with that information so you know what you're asking in your visit and what you want to leave the visit knowing. You want to be sure to listen to the answers, right? Sometimes it's a little nuanced. Sometimes you're going to have to ask a couple of questions, but you want to be able to, again, share information and leave with information. Really important. If during your visit you're asked a question and you don't know the answer, just let them know that you'll get back to them. In your follow-up email, you can be sure to provide that answer. If during the conversation it shifts off topic, and it often does, just use pivot language to get back on track. Some examples include things like, that's a good question. People have a misconception about this, but really it's about, or yes, but in addition to that, or I'm not sure about that. But what I do know is, or that's a good point, but today we are here to talk about, right? So there are lots of pivot messaging and language that you can use, and we're going to provide that to you in your follow-up. You want to stay nonpartisan. NCJW is a 501c3 organization, and we want to keep the conversation to the issues. You want to have a wrap up where you mention the questions, the follow-up that you're going to do. You want to share the leave behind folder that Talia mentioned. Again, we're going to provide that for you and you're welcome to add to it. Exchange business cards if it's not in the folder, or ask for a business card from the staff members if you're meeting with staff. Ask if you can take a photo again, and of course, say thank you for the time. Last and really important, you want to debrief the visit. If you have time, you want to leave, go far away from the office. Right? You don't want staff from the office or any staff from next door offices to hear your conversation. And you want to learn what worked, what could have gone better, what could you do differently next time. If you can't do that, do it at the end of the day, do it when you get home. But at some point, you want to debrief so that you can learn from your meeting. You want to make sure everybody from the visit is on the same page. And of course, you want to be sure that you've got somebody on tap. If it's not you, somebody else in your delegation to do the follow-up. And now I'm going to toss it back to Talia, who is going to talk to us about after the visit.
Thanks, Jody. So, like Jody was just saying, we want you to send a thank you note with any follow-up information promised during the meeting. Maybe you said you'll share this resource or some talking points. Be sure to send the thank you note, even if your follow-up materials aren't quite ready. We have created a template thank you note for you. We'll make sure that you all have it to personalize after your visit. And again, coordinate with those from your visit to make sure that you're not all sending a bunch of thank you notes. One person should complete the advocacy visit report form while the visit is still fresh. Be sure to complete one report form per visit each, please. The team here at HQ will review all the visit feedback and share relevant information with partners. And we may also follow up with a few offices. We will be sure you have a link to the form in advance of Washington Institute. Please stay in contact with the staff and build the relationship after your visit. Part of being an effective advocate is leveraging the relationships you've built and growing them and fostering them. And staff tend to move around on Capitol Hill. You never know where they'll wind up next. Maybe they'll be a staff member on a very powerful committee, and you've built a relationship that's important.
Okay, now it's time for a practice visit. Talia and I will model 2 advocacy visits. We're going to debrief afterwards. Feel free to drop items in the in the Q&A, but we will also talk about what worked and what didn't. So we look forward again to seeing your questions in the Q&A, and if you've got any feedback on the visits, we're going to do them back to back. So in the first scenario, Talia is going to play the senator, Senator Steinberg, and I am going to play the advocate. Talia, you ready?
I'm ready. Got my blazer on. I'm ready to go.
Same. Okay. Hi, Senator Steinberg. Thank you so much for agreeing to meet with me. Are we going to meet in your office?
Thank you, Jody. I love meeting with folks in the community. We're actually going to be meeting in the hallway today due to space. I hope standing is okay because we really don't have a choice.
Okay. I was so excited to go into your office, but like I need to take notes and all right. Okay. All right. I want to meet with you, so I'm going to make it work.
Listen, I don't have a lot of time today, so let's get started. I'm assuming you're here today to talk about Israel? Tell me.
Well, no. I'm sorry. I emailed the
Y'all
office.
are doing
Like,
such good stuff on Israel.
no. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm so sorry. Like I'm a little thrown because I thought we were meeting in the office, and I'm not here to talk about Israel. It's important, of course, but I'm actually here to talk about the national abortion ban bill. And I mean, if you want to talk about Israel, I can try to do that now, or I can get back to you later with more information. But like, that's not what I said to the
I
office.
mean, no, we can talk about abortion if that's important to you. I think it's pretty public how I feel about the issue, but I always like to hear more from constituents.
Okay. Thank you. I'm so glad. Am glad because between like not meeting in your office and then a different issue, but like, okay, this is the issue that I came to talk to you about. And of course, I'm grateful for your time. And I know that you have a public opinion on this, and I disagree with it, but I really appreciate how you voted a few months ago on a homeless bill that we really cared a lot about. So I'm grateful for that. But again, that's not why I'm here. I'm
Oh,
here to,
yeah, of course. You know that I really care about that community.
well, I'm glad you say that because I'm here to talk about legislation that would ban abortion. It's really harmful and it would hurt your constituents. And so I really thought that you needed to hear about it.
I'm sorry that you feel that, I need to oppose it, and I'm sorry that you feel that way, but honestly, Jody, a lot of my constituents really support it. We know that infants feel pain and babies are precious members of our community that must be protected. it's simply wrong to kill them. And I know that the community agrees with me on this. I actually think it's abhorrent that you don't think that too, and that you would allow babies to be executed up until moments before birth. I guess we disagree on that. I mean, I'm curious as someone who believes in this, how many people in our community even need abortions? Like, how many people are seeking abortions each week or month in our state? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, 100 maybe. I guess 100 right
A
now
hundred
need them.
people. All right, if you say so.
I, I'm, I'm, I'm really upset. I think you're abhorrent for holding your view of me. You called me abhorrent. At least 100 people need this right now.
Well, think that this is all the time I have today. I'm not going to vote the way you want, but keep being a community advocate.
I'm leaving.
Okay, hats off.
Take a bow.
We're no longer the senator and the advocate. That was so hard for me to say those things. Let's review what did and did not go well, and please feel free to throw some stuff in the Q&A box as it's a chat. Pretend it's a chat. Okay, so a few things that went well. Jody stayed on topic. She started with a thank you. She found something on my record to compliment. That was good. Thank you, Jody. What went wrong? A whole lot. Sorry, Jody, not your fault. We practiced it this way. Jody got, the advocate got visibly flustered. The advocate, made up an answer about the number of people who needed abortions in their locality, instead of saying, I'm not sure, but I'll get back to you. And the advocate did not say thank you at the end, even though Jody thanked during, did not say thank you at the end. So what could have gone better? The advocate, Jody, could have said, we just agree to disagree. Jody could have been more flexible, and a little more civil and not called me abhorrent. So, Jody, I'd love to pass it back to you for a second.
All right. So now we're going to practice another advocacy visit. And we'll take a minute afterwards to talk about what worked and what didn't. In this scenario, Talia is going to play the staff person in the office. And again, I will play the advocate. All right. You ready, Talia?
I'm ready. Same blazer, different person.
Okay. Same person, same blazer. Hi. My name is Jody Rabhan. I'm here to meet with Talia Steinberg on behalf of National Council of Jewish Women.
Jody, it's such a pleasure to meet you. Do you mind if we chat in the reception area? My office is a bit crazy at the moment.
Oh, Talia, I didn't realize it's you. It's so nice to meet you. That is fine. I'll pull up a chair.
Thank you for being flexible. While we get situated, why don't you tell me about yourself and why you're here today?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned in my email, I'm a constituent of the Congresswoman and I'm a member of National Council of Jewish Women. Are you familiar with the organization?
A little bit, but I'd love to hear more.
All right. Well, I'm happy to tell you that we are 131 years old. We are an advocacy organization working for equity and justice for women, children, and family. We've got advocates across the country, about 225,000 of them, with advocates in every state, including your bosses. And today I'm here to talk about why we oppose the national abortion ban. Abortion is healthcare, and we believe that everybody should be able to seek the care that they need when they need it. And as Jews, it's like, another step. Our tradition permits and sometimes even requires abortion care when the health and the life of the pregnant person is in danger. Um, I know that the Congresswoman has been very nuanced on the issue of abortion. So I would just love to know where she is on this bill, which to us is really harmful.
Well, this is a really tricky topic for us, so I'm glad you came in to express how you feel. I'll be honest, the Congresswoman is personally pro-life, but she does strive to represent all of her constituents' views, as you kind of alluded to. We're hearing from so many people, I'll say, from the district, urging the Congresswoman to vote for this ban. A lot of people are concerned about abortion, especially after we've heard from our leadership saying that babies can be ripped from the womb moments before birth. That's really concerning. And you're actually the first constituent I'm hearing from speaking out against the national ban.
Wow, I'm surprised to hear that. And that makes me even more glad that I'm able to meet with you today. I mean, I think, look, we might disagree on this bill, but I want to explain how my faith values inform my opposition, National Council of Jewish Women's opposition to this burdensome ban. So, Jewish tradition teaches that a pregnant person's health is paramount at any and all stages of pregnancy. And so, for that reason, NCGW has resolutions that really are geared to work for policies that protect everybody's right, everybody's ability to make decisions throughout their pregnancies, right? That work for them, that work for their families, and that they're able to make their own decisions throughout, and that we are all working to eliminate obstacles that limit reproductive freedom. We know that there's so many factors that go into making a decision about having an abortion. And as I mentioned, everybody should be able to make their own decisions about when and if to have a family, doing it with their families, with their doctor, with their clergy, however they decide. But forcing people to carry a pregnancy just compounds so many violations of life, of liberty, of safety, of bodily autonomy, of privacy, of personal decision making. I could go on and on. And it also forces people or really keeps them in poverty, sort of setting up or further deepening intergenerational poverty.
I'm really glad that you brought this to my attention. I wasn't aware of a lot of those reasons or of your organization's stance on these issues. So that's definitely helpful. I'm really curious, why aren't we hearing more voices like yours? It actually seems the Jewish community and perhaps other people of faith have a real there when it comes to reproductive freedom.
It really is true. There are so many religions who believe in abortion care because of their religion, not in spite of it. But abortion is so stigmatized. And we really tried in CJW to tie the issue to religious freedom. And we know that the other side, conservative groups, have really waved that flag of religious liberty and they've used it as a weapon. So, um, using it as a way to say that faith and abortion don't go together.
Mm.
And they absolutely do. And we really oppose attempts to enshrine one religious viewpoint into law to restrict abortion access. We believe in people's own ability to make their own decisions, their own faith-informed decisions about their bodies, about their lives, and about their futures.
Your points about religious liberty are well taken and very interesting. I am still having a hard time understanding how someone who claims to be a person of faith would allow, harm to babies. I mean, again, we've heard from leadership that doctors execute babies. I don't know how we can allow this.
I'm glad that you mentioned it because that actually isn't true. The majority of abortions happen earlier in pregnancy when fetal pain is undetectable. And as I mentioned, a majority of people of faith support abortion care because of their religion, not in spite of it. My personal connection to the issue is rooted in the Jewish commitment to pursuing justice for all. I won't stand by, National Council of Jewish Women won't stand by while barriers to healthcare place any individual's autonomy or health at risk. And that's what abortion bans do. If it would help you to hear from people who've been directly impacted by the bans, even the hurtful rhetoric around abortion, I would be so happy to connect you. These are folks in district who are constituents of the Congresswoman, and they've got firsthand experiences.
I think I'll very much take you up on that offer. You've certainly given me a lot to think about, and I'll definitely relay your thoughts and these points to the Congresswoman. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad that we were able to have this conversation. I've got a folder that I'm going to leave with you with more reading material. It's got some personal stories from the community, but honestly, if you're interested, I would be very happy to introduce you to real folks in the community who can share their firsthand experience. So just let me know. Thank you so much again for your time.
And see.
Thank
Yay,
you,
thank you, Jody. Good job, Jody.
Talia.
I'm taking this off because I'm no longer an actress. All right. What went well? Again, please feel free to drop into the Q&A as if it's a chat, but I'll say what I think went well. Jody was flexible and calm when, the plans changed at the beginning. She pivoted by highlighting her own personal connection to the issue when I asked her a tough and misleading question. She connected her opinion to NCJW's views and to Jewish values. And she offered to get back the information that I asked for that she maybe didn't have on hand. What could have been better? A couple of things that, nothing is perfect. Yes, Leslie, thank you. Jody was prepared. Amen. Um, Jody did not include pronouns in her introduction. That's okay, not the end of the world. Strayed a little bit from the talking points and messaging and, dismissed my concerns about fetal pain a little bit, but I think you still pivoted pretty well. Um, the one thing that was really missing, though, was there was no thank you to me and my boss. I know you did thank for the time, but Jody could have found like a relevant thank you. Maybe we led a bill on childcare or something. All right, so yes, Jody for president. Agree, Stacy. Thank you. Okay, so now that we have practiced our lobby visits, I would love to turn it now to some Q&A, answer any questions that you have. We'll get to as many as we can. We've already had a few sent to us through the private Q&A function. So I'll share one that came to us that I thought was really poignant. Why should I meet with a lawmaker that I know disagrees with me on an issue? Well, Jody and I just showed you a great example of a meeting like that. Jody knew going in that the Congresswoman disagreed on that issue. Jody was ready for that answer, and Jody had good answers in response. But the question is, why? Why should we meet with lawmakers even if they know, we disagree on the issues we're bringing them? I have a couple of great answers to this that I think are great. First, just like we saw just now, it shows that office and that member of Congress that their view is not representative of all their constituents. Like in our example meeting, I was saying that I had only heard from one side, but it was great for me to hear from another side. And if I heard from more because I was teetering on the issue, maybe we'd change our vote. So showing that it's not representative of all voices, that's number one. Building relationships is so important. Maybe we disagree on an abortion ban, but maybe we agree on childcare, that we need to increase funding for childcare. So we build that relationship, even if we're coming to them on an issue we disagree on, so that down the line we can work together on other issues. And so those are two really, really important reasons, showing a diverse spectrum of opinions, maybe moving them to change their mind, which is not always possible, but really most importantly is building that relationship. So I'm happy to kind of move on to other questions. We've gotten a lot of great questions so far.
Talia,
Another one. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jody.
I was gonna jump in with one
Yeah.
that is in the Q&A, and then we've got another one that came to us privately, if you see next.
Yes.
So while you look at that one that came in the Q&A is from Lisa, who said it would have been helpful to have the sample talking points to look at before watching the role play. This is all role play. So national abortion ban, at least right now, is not happening. It's not a bill, and it's not an issue that we're taking to Washington Institute. We simply used it as a way to be able to show a sort of not great lobby visit and a better lobby visit as an example. But we purposely didn't choose one of the issues that we're taking to the Hill because you're going to hear about those issues on the April 9th webinar.
Yes. And then one of the other questions that we got through the private chat was, will there be time for more than one issue? 100%. We are giving you 3 issues to bring to your meeting. And I'll say Jody was driving home some longer, larger ideas on the hypothetical national abortion ban. But you'll have lots of time for your 3 issues, especially, you'll hopefully have these 30-minute meetings. And even if you only have 15 minutes, you'll give 2 minutes, 3 minutes to talk about your issues if you have a shorter meeting. And the talking points that we'll provide you after April 9th will be very succinct, very clear on what you should bring up. So I hope that's helpful.
Okay, there's another question that we got around what if the lawmaker agrees with us on the issues? Should I still meet with them? Should I look for somebody else to meet with? The answer is you should absolutely meet with them. So, as we mentioned earlier, right? Well, whether you voted for them or not, they represent you. You hired them, you can fire them, and they need to hear from you. You are their constituents. And even if they are with you on the issues, I can guarantee you they are not doing enough. They could be on social media talking about the issues. They could be using floor time to talk about the issues. They could be using caucus lunches to talk about the issues. They could be writing op-eds in national papers, in your local papers, when they're home in district during congressional recesses. They can be holding town halls about these issues. There is no shortage of opportunity for folks who are good on these issues to not just be good, to be great, to be champions on our issues, to talk to their friends on the other side of the aisle, to talk to their friends who are on the same side of the aisle, but might not be co-sponsoring, but might not be doing enough. I guarantee you, they are never doing enough. So you should not hesitate to ask them to go further and to do more.
Yes, thank you, Jody. Stacy, that is a great question. So the talking points that we'll provide on the three issues will be general, not specific to states. However, we'll also be providing member profiles to you that say where the member is on the bill. Do they co-sponsor it? Do they not? Did they vote for it or against it if it was a bill in a previous Congress? And so you'll have that information on the member you're meeting with, which will be helpful. I hope that's a helpful answer.
And we'll have the talking points sooner than later. Remember, you're going to hear about them on the April 9th call, the issues that we're taking to the Hill. So you will also have time if you want to do your own research,
Yes.
or if you've got an SPA and you want to check in with your SPA, you'll have plenty of time before Washington Institute and then also at Washington Institute. Talia, how about if I take the next question that came in?
Please do.
Okay. So this question is from someone who said, I volunteered for my elected officials campaign. And by telling them that in an advocacy visit, do you think that'll make them more likely to listen to what I have to say? And this is a pretty quick and easy answer, and that is a reminder that NCJW is a nonprofit organization. That means we follow the rules of 501c3 organizations. We cannot support candidates. We cannot support anybody running for office. We can support issues. So do not bring that up. If you're wearing, a button from the campaign, take it off. If you want to say something about it, do it on your own time, in your own follow-up, in your own email or phone call. We cannot talk about campaigns in our lobby visits.
Awesome. Thank you, Jody. We got a couple more questions directly. I just want to reference Leslie that one of your senators is new. I believe I know exactly who you're talking about. Maybe they have a track record on what they've supported, maybe when they were in their state senate or state legislator. So you could think about that. Maybe they made speeches or shared anything during their campaign that said that they believe XYZ that you could reference. And you could say, I know that you support X issue. That's why I hope you'll co-sponsor X bill, if that's helpful. So that's a great point, Leslie. Another one that we got in directly in Q&A, what's the best way to handle someone in my group who goes off topic on a visit? This happens, and you can't control people, and that's okay. So you as if you're the visit leader, if you're the person kind of introducing and steering the meeting a little bit, we encourage you to pivot. We encourage you to say, let's say Jody's the one going off topic and I'm the one kind of steering the visit. Jody, that's so important. Thank you for sharing that. I'd love to turn us back to the national abortion ban, or Jody, thank you so much for that. We're happy, Congresswoman, to share more about this after the fact, but right now I'd like to focus on the national abortion ban. So pivot. It's so it feels difficult, and I know you don't want to interrupt someone, but it's really important. And then let's say that person going off topic takes up so much of your visit you can't get through everything, or you don't have time to say a thank you or whatever. Not the end of the world. In your follow-up email, you can always say to the staffer, thank you so much for the time. We did not have time to get to this other issue. We want to make sure you're aware that we also support X bill. We really, in addition to the things we discussed, A and B bill, we really hope that the Congresswoman will support X bill. So you can follow up. So pivot and follow up.
I think as much as possible, if you have an opportunity to meet, if you have a delegation and you can meet in advance, do
Yes.
that. And this way you can, right, talk about some of the things that we mentioned tonight about the importance of staying on topic, that visits are often tight, that you've got three issues and you've got a lot to get in there, and that you want to assign roles, and everybody's going to have a bit of time. You're going to have a timekeeper, and it's really important to stay on track. You don't always get the opportunity to come to Washington and meet with your lawmakers, and so you want to make the most of your visit. And again, if you don't get to do it on site, you'll have an opportunity before you come. You'll have an opportunity on site at Washington Institute, and as Talia said, that sometimes these things just still happen, and you go with it and you make the best of it in your meeting and, of course, after the visit.
I'm happy to answer the next one, Jody, or whatever. Okay, great, awesome. Um, what if I realize, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, what if I realize after an advocacy visit that I said something wrong? We're only human. That's okay. It's so easy, and I have to do this a lot. This is part of my job, frankly. Um, Reach back out via phone or email and make the correction. It can be in your thank you note even. Thank you so much for meeting with us. We want to reiterate that we want the Congresswoman to support A, B, and C bill. One thing I would like to clarify, in the meeting we said that the bill is HR 22. It's actually HR 23. That's again a very small thing that they'll figure out, but that's an example. So you can always follow up and clarify even if it's in your thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. We got a question from Stacy in the chat about, is it bad form to set a timer on your phone if you don't have a timekeeper? It is not bad form. My recommendation is that you don't turn the volume on and that you keep you keep the ringer off. But you can also just have your phone out. You can have your watch in front of you, if people even wear watches anymore, and pay attention. I guarantee you the staffer is going to be paying attention. They are in session when we are in Washington. And so the good news is that lawmakers will be around, staff will be available, but it also means that their time is precious, and there are going to be votes, and they're going to be pulled into lots of different meetings and things happening. And so you might not have a lot of time, and they may not have a lot of time. So it's perfectly acceptable to just keep glancing at a phone, glancing at your watch. Oftentimes I'll start and say, you know, is this visit 30 minutes? We're hoping it's 30 minutes. We've got another meeting. We've got to get across, to the House side or the Senate side, and, just really want to be respectful of your time. And so a lot of times I'll just set up a visit, just being really upfront with, the time issues that we're up against. So don't hesitate to glance, keep yourselves on track, be respectful of your own time and the staff person's time, and they will appreciate it.
We have another one from Leslie. What about DC residents? I'm excited that you have a DC resident coming with you, Leslie. I have a couple thoughts on that, and Jody, please feel free to add if I missed anything. First of all, your DC resident can meet with the wonderful Eleanor Holmes Norton. Eleanor Holmes Norton, I believe, can co-sponsor legislation, right, Jody? And that is still very important. And then from my perspective, and Jody, if you feel otherwise, let me know. I think that a DC resident can still go to Maryland and Virginia visits. Because Leslie, the DMV is the DC, Maryland, Virginia area is we're all sisters, and so it's cool for the DC resident to go to those and say, if you can discuss if they want to say that they're a DC resident and such, and they can say, these issues impact me, we are all one DMV. So, but at least Eleanor Holmes Norton is still a very important way to get that voice heard.
And I think it's a great reminder in this moment. I agree with everything you said, Talia. There's a lot going on. There are a lot of, major issues. There are a lot of people hurting. And it's a reminder that the people in the District of Columbia still do not have representation in Congress. And so by being there, reminding lawmakers, again, even if they are pro making DC a state, it's a reminder that, like, hello, I'm one of the more than 700,000 residents in the District of Columbia that have nobody to go to other than the great delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton. So I think it's a plus that you have DC residents with you. And again, a really good reminder about the issue related to DC. Talia, I think we've got one more question.
Yes. And again, we one more question that we've gotten so far, but if any other questions come up after, we are always happy to answer through our wonderful Alana, of course. Um, Final question. What are ways to build relationships with staff and lawmakers beyond this or an advocacy visit? I love this question because this is our job. We want to foster these relationships between you guys, the local folks, and these offices. So first of all, follow-up visits. Maybe the next time you're in DC, schedule a follow-up, whether or not it's about these issues. Sometimes I just have, even if I don't have an issue to bring to an office, it's still good to check in. What are you working on? What are we working on? The follow-up visits could be in district. We love in-district meetings. They're so powerful to share what we care about in that moment. There are legislator breakfasts that often happen in the district. The candidates sometimes have forums when they're running for office. And so there's a lot of ways to stay engaged, even, checking in over email. And so those are some great ways to stay engaged and build that relationship.
I think another great way is something that we do at NCGW HQ, and that is every time we do something. So we're speaking at a rally like yesterday, we have a press statement, we send it to offices,
Yeah.
relevant offices, leadership offices. Um, and then every Friday, we send a wrap-up email. We'll pull things from social media. You all can do the same thing, take these ideas, run with it. And we lift up what NCJW has been up to during the week. And it's a way in which we stay top of mind, we stay relevant, we are in their inboxes. And so when something happens, like, I don't know, the SAVE Act is coming up, or Speaker Johnson decides that he's going to get rid of all of the legislative bills on the agenda for the week rather than deal with the issue of proxy voting, we're top of mind and they start reaching out to us. How do you feel about this? What's NCJW saying about this? What are your partners doing? Right. And it's a reminder to them that we're here, that we're a resource to them, and that they can go to us with whatever questions and needs that they have. So look for every opportunity, get creative, but don't hesitate to be in their inboxes as often as you're able to, so that they remember that you're there and that you're there to help them in their time of need. Any other questions? All right, well, if we see any others in the Q&A before we wrap up, we'll get to them. But for now, I want to leave you with yet another reminder to be sure to register for our Washington Institute Legislative Briefing webinar at April 9th. It's at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can find it on our website. If you go to the events tab, you'll find it under Washington Institute. We're including it in our section update. It went out today. It's in the section newsletter. And for SPAs, we have it every Friday for you in your email. So you can also just reach out to one of us. On the April 9th training, which a reminder, you have to register for. It's not the link itself. You've got to register for it. We're going to be talking about the bills that we're taking to Congress at Washington Institute, what's important to know, why we care about them, and what your ask should be. And of course, we're always going to take your questions on that webinar. We talked a lot tonight about the issues, how to talk about them, what to ask for, and we're going to provide you with all of that information. It will be provided again on that webinar. We're going to have it on our website and we will include it in the follow-up email. Tonight's recording and the recording of the April 9th call will be in the follow-up email, which we are aiming to get out to all registrants on April 10th. Okay, we're also going to include everything that we've talked about. So pivoting language, the advocacy report form, a template thank you note. Every resource that we mention is going to be in this follow-up email. And of course, in the meantime, in between this webinar and the April 9th webinar, if you're looking for something to do, register for Washington Institute. Get your friends to register for Washington Institute. Get your friends, your family to register, to sponsor, to buy an ad. Lots and lots of ways that you can engage with NCJW. Note that the registration page has a draft schedule. As we fine tune the schedule, we're going to make that available to you all. So you'll start to see on our website, on the app that you're going to hear more about, a much more detailed and robust schedule. And then pretty soon, you're also going to hear about the speakers and the honorees at the event. We're so excited to share everything with all of you. Before you leave, we want to share a little bit of homework. Okay. If you haven't already sent in a request to your lawmakers for your meetings, be sure to do it this week. Of course, if this is all new to you, check in with your section to be sure that somebody hasn't already done this. These meetings aren't for everybody to schedule. SPA schedule the Senate visits, the sections schedule the House visits, and if you don't have a section or you don't know what's happening, just reach out to folks in your delegation, or again, you can reach out to NCJW HQ. If you haven't heard from them, as Talia said, don't worry. Sometimes it takes some follow-up, and we've included some follow-up language for you all, which, again, if you don't have access to it, check in with your sections, then find us and we'll get it to you. We'll include Alana Boyle's information. She's got access to all of these materials that we've mentioned, and she can help you troubleshoot as you're planning for your visits. And her contact information will be in our follow-up email on the 10th. And just a big thank you to all of you. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for joining us in Washington in May. We can't wait. And we really look forward to seeing you all and folks coming with you on the April 9th webinar. Take care and have a great night.